What's going on, Gifted Hands family? It is Elijah here bringing you another lesson, and today we're breaking down the traditional gospel hymn, Daily I Shall Worship Thee. We are in the key of F sharp. Let's dive into it, all right? Let's start with our scale. F sharp scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So we're in the black keys today. I feel like we don't do a bunch of songs in black keys or in F sharp in general. So I know a couple of y'all in the academy have been asking for songs in F sharp. So here you go. Here's one today. All right. So when we're learning a hymn like this, first thing we want to do is really just get comfortable with the melody line and the basic chords, right? If you can learn the basic chords, the basic changes, then you can embellish. You can go off with chord changes, passing chords, reharms, all the fancy stuff, right? You can do all the extraness. So let's talk about just the basic progression first. So we're starting off on the one. Daily I shall. So that's where we're at. Daily for 1 to the 5 dominant, worship thee, back to the 1. So get those chords down first. That's where you want to start. Get comfortable with that. And then after you're comfortable with that, we can start looking at like how can we add passing chords? How can we add embellishments? How can we transition from chord to chord to chord to make our playing sound more connected and more full, right? So let's talk about it then. What are we going to do? So starting off, one thing I like to do is just, since we're playing the 1 chord, daily I shall, sometimes I'll walk with the melody line, meaning the melody line is daily I shall. I can make my chords walk with that. So 1/3, 4, 1/3. And what I'm doing is using like drop 2 chord voicing. So this is a nice open chord voicing. This is the 1 chord. Still the 1 chord, drop 2. This is, I guess, technically like drop 3, since this would be my chord. I'm taking the F sharp, putting it in the bass, right? 1/3, 4, back to the 1/3. And then we said we're going 5, 1, right? And just instead of playing the 5, for some reason the 5 just sounds like too strong that early in the song for me. So what I like to do is just, instead of playing the 5, I'm gonna put the 7 in the bass. All right, and that gives me. You can play like 5/7, or you can even play the 7 chord as like a half diminished. And so, like, if you look at this chord, which is our 7 chord, half diminished, if I put the 5 in the bass, that still gives me a dominant chord, right? So essentially, this is the same thing as this. The 5 and the 7 are almost interchangeable. Okay? Why? Because if I change my bass note, I get a dominant chord. If I put the F in the bass, it gives me a half diminished chord, which is my 7, right? With the 5 in the bass, it gives me a dominant chord with the 9th. So these 2 chords are interchangeable. So instead of playing the 5 right there, because the 5 is just, I don't know, that dominant chord is really strong. This sounds like a little more subtle. I think, once again, it goes back to storytelling. If we're trying to tell a story, we're trying to convey a message in our playing, I just think since we're so early in the song, I don't need to make a bold final statement, because that just sounds like the song's about to end to me. So I like to switch it up. All right. So 7 to the 1. And then I'm like, you can do this run with your left hand. Just going up and down the F sharp major scale. Okay, so far, 1, 1, 4, 1/3, 7, back to the 1. And then let's do it again. Ooh, oh. And then another thing we can do, Lamb of 4. God. Right? I can play that a bunch of different ways. That's something I did in the playthrough, right? Which is, instead of doing 1, 3, 4, 1 over 3, we did 1, dominant 1. Why? Because remember, our chord progression is daily 1, 4. So I'm trying to get to the 4. So it doesn't really matter how I get there as long as I get to the 4, okay? So what I'm gonna do is daily, I'm gonna invert the 4 and I'm gonna play 4 over 6. Why? Because one of our rules of inversion say, if I have a chord, let's say our 4 chord, which is B major, B, D sharp, F sharp, I can play in the bass any of these notes. I can use any of these notes as a bass note. So I'm gonna choose the 6, which is D sharp, which is one of my chord tones, as my bass note, okay? And then that allows me to do daily I shall. Okay, that's what it's gonna allow me to do. Why? I'm gonna do 1, or actually, timing's a little bit different. So daily I, that's what I would do. 1 dominant, 4, back to the 1, okay? And I can switch up the bass notes to make it daily. This is still a 1 dominant chord, we're just playing it rootless. I'm putting a flat 7 in the bass. 4 over 6, this is my 4 chord to my 1 chord. Just put the 5 in the bass. So nice little movement. And then we could even do, this is a 5 chord technically. We just got the B in the bass. We're rootless. 5 to the 1.